Thank you, Dave, for that lovely question. Gentleman behind you.
Hello, Sir Derek.
Hello.
A couple of questions, if possible, please. You mentioned the critics before.
Yeah.
Do you actually pay any attention to the critics, number one? And number two, the day you met the Queen and got knighted, could you share some memories with us?
No, I don't. I don't read the critics. I haven't I did when I was a young actor. And like all actors who read critics, they're very influential. Whatever an actor says, if you read them, you're influenced by them. If they're bad, you want to kill yourself. If they are dismissive, if they ignore you, you feel dreadful. If they're good, there's also you feel fine, yeah, good. But sometimes you then go on and start acting the good bits. If they've picked out a section that was particularly good, you end up actually sometimes not being able to do that. There's a famous thing when Harold Hobson, who was a famous critic on the Sunday Times, talking about Peggy Ashcroft in a play that she was doing, and there was one line that he said, when she said this line, heavens opened. It was the most glorious piece of acting that he'd ever seen. And he went on Sunday after Sunday about the way Peggy had said this line. When he was reviewing other things, he would go back to his line. Eventually she cut it. Eventually she could not say it because he'd given her such a thing about it. I stopped reading them when I did my first sort of leading role with the National in a Peter Shaffer play called Black Comedy. And it was only half an evening. It was Maggie Smith and Albert Finney doing Miss Julie in the first half, and Peter's play Black Comedy in the second half. And I was the lead in Black Comedy. And at the same time, we were filming Olivier's Othello, in which I was playing Cassio. So I was going from Chichester to Shepperton, sort of overnight. It was an exciting time, terrifying and very tiring, but wonderful. But after the first night of Black Comedy at Chichester, I went to Shepperton. And next morning, I went onto the set, and Sir Lawrence was sitting there in his canvas-back chair, and he had all the papers round him. And he was reading the papers, and I daren't go anywhere near them. And he called me over, and he sat me down. And he virtually said, I don't care what the critics say, I thought you were wonderful. And it was my heart sank. And I thought, I don't want to read what they've said. If they've hated it, they've hated it. If they've just merely disliked it, they've merely disliked it. But I don't want to read the words. I now know that they weren't good. And that was a lesson that repeated itself from then on. The moment the reviews come out the next day after the press night, and you haven't read them, within less than 24 hours, you know roughly what they said without reading them. Somebody will ring up and say, well, I don't think the Times saw the same play that I saw. So you know the Times is a power. Or they'll say, congratulations on your reviews. Well, don't congratulate me on my reviews, congratulate me on my performance. But okay, from that I gather that the reviews are good. But during the way people don't talk about them, the way people look at you or drop their eyes or whatever, you know whether they're good or bad. But you don't have to actually read the words that they used. Nowadays they put stars, how many stars you get. Oh dear. No. What was the other question?
Oh, memories of meeting the Queen.
Oh, meeting the Queen, yes. Well, that was all absolutely out of the blue. And it was the New Year's Honours 1994. And I'd got a letter from John Major saying that you have been recommended. And in the letter there is a box saying, tick this box if you want it. Tick this one if you don't want it. And but of course, kind of think about it. And I did think about it. Because I know how I felt when I first met Sir Lawrence, and how much in awe I was of him, and how my shirt stuck to my back, and how intimidated I was by his title. Same with Sir John and Sir Michael and Sir Ralph. They were titans. And yes, I wanted to join them, but in a sense I didn't want to have that effect on other actors. And I thought very carefully about it, and I thought ultimately it's in my gift. It's how I behave with it, how I use it or don't use it or whatever. But it's up to me to put young actors at their ease and say, you know, I answer to anything. It's an honour, but it's forget about it. So I ticked yes, and I heard no more. And you're supposed not to tell anybody, anything. Otherwise, and the famous one is John Mills, who ticked yes, told his wife, Mary Haley Bell, and she gave a party. And it was taken away. He had to wait another 5 years before he became Sir John Mills, yes. Because you're not supposed to do that. And you're told very strictly not to tell anybody. So I didn't know whether they'd accepted it or not, because they can still refuse until New Year's Eve, 1994, 93, 94, I think it was. And I was playing Macbeth at the Barbican. And I arrived for the matinee, and the press were around the stage door. And I didn't know why they were there. I walked in, and they said, blah, 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 you've been awarded a knighthood. And that was when I knew it was going to happen. The investiture was at the palace a few months later. I took my father, who was practically bursting, and we sat in the throne room, and the other knights are the first ones they do. So you get up and you walk down the side. The audience is here, and you walk down a corridor at the side, and as your name is called, you walk across, and you've been rehearsed already in another room to kneel with the right knee on the cushion, to bow, to kneel, to do the business, get up, walk back. She shakes your hand. She says a few words, a very few words. She said to me, "Are you working?" And I told her I was playing Macbeth, not the best king to be playing at that time. But as they play, at the back of the room, there is a section of the Band of the Coldstream Guards playing popular tunes. Anything from Cole Porter to Andrew Lloyd Webber. And as my name was called, they segued into an old Perry Como song called "It's Impossible." Just as I walked forward. So I did all the business, but unfortunately, the Queen had a riding accident, a slight one, and she had this arm in a sling with a handbag over the plaster. And so she couldn't put the gong on me. She could do the sword, but she couldn't do the gong. So the equerry came and did that bit of business. And then, because she's got to get through about 250 people, and so there's only about 2 sentences that you say to each other, and then she shakes your hand, and as she takes your hand, she goes, and that means get the fuck out of it. So you back off and walk out. And then you're accosted by somebody who says, would you like a video recording of your investiture? And of course you say, yes, that would be lovely. So you are given a recording into which is a history of the investiture ceremony. There are, I think, 14 investitures per year. Each one is over 250 people. So you imagine how many people are being honoured per year. Now, this video comes with your little moment with the Queen spliced into it in the middle of the history of the investitures. What you're not told is that it cost £150. Made payable to Bonham Carter. So somebody in the Bonham Carter family is making a lot of money because nobody's going to refuse their moment. So that was my day. It was, and then when you come out, there are two signs. Either if you want to be photographed by the press, you go that way, or if you just want a photograph for yourself and you go that way. And I went that way. I didn't do the press thing. It was just because it was just me and my dad, who was, I say, was just beside himself, and in tears because my mother wasn't there, and all, you know, it was. But it was a wonderful day. It was a wonderful day and a memorable day, and a totally unlooked for day.
Fred, we're going to have to kind of jump forward to what we're here for, which is talk about I could sit here for hours.
Sorry.
No. When did the call come then to play this Dr. Bliss Master thing?
Well, the call came. My agent called up and said, "You've been offered a part in Doctor Who, and iconic series. Of course, I wanted to do it, and of course I said yes, without knowing what the part was. I mean, they said we'll send you the script, and the script came, and I read it. I thought this is great, very well written, lovely character, but not being an aficionado of Doctor Who, having seen it over the years, of course, grown up with it, but not like all of you, knowing intimately about Doctor Who, I didn't know the significance of what I was being offered. And I remember going out to dinner about 2 days later with Michael Grandage and Christopher Oram, the theatre people that I've worked with. Christopher's a designer, and he is a huge Doctor Who fan. And I announced at dinner I was going to do Doctor Who. He nearly fell off his seat. And I said, why are you so excited, Chris? And he said, well, look at me, Doctor Who. I said, yes, well, I'm excited, but I sense of proportion. And then he said, what are you playing? And I said, well, it's a character called Professor Yana, who becomes somebody called the Master. I mean, it was the apogee of my career. The only way was down after that. I could never forget knighthoods, forget all that. And you know, he said, "Well, you've got an iconic role in this fantastic series." And then I became aware, of course, of the importance of it, and no pressure, of course, no pressure. And then we started, and I met David, and who was wonderful. They all were wonderful, and had a great time doing it. Really loved it. And then, as I was enjoying it and looking forward to my life as the Master, I was morphed into somebody younger. I was morphed into John Sim because they wanted a younger model. So it was brief, but glorious. for me.
Did you?
Yes.
Did you manage to look at any of like the Roger Delgado's stuff or the stuff that actually?
No. I asked actually
Yeah.
to see the history of the master, but they said they haven't got time.
Shame on them.
So
Shame on them. So what tips did you get from your friend then in terms of how to play it? Did he tell you all?
no, he didn't. He didn't. He didn't go any further except wild enthusiasm and encouragement, and really put me in the picture. Really said, you must believe that you are playing a seriously important role. And I hadn't reckoned it. I had played the master on audio, yes, but I hadn't sort of connected the whole thing.
Yeah. And did things like the fandom, were you suddenly amazed by the response of fans? And
Yes, extraordinary. I mean, like being here today. Amazing. And suddenly, having been around for many years as an actor, there was a whole new sort of fan base. It is. That's the marvelous thing about being an actor, because next year, September next year, I've been a professional actor for 50 years, but. During that time, one has grown. You started as a Juve. I'm playing grandfathers now. But it's wonderful because you need never retire. You just go on until you drop. But that's what's so wonderful. These new things happen. I do a narration of a little children's thing called In the Night Garden. There's a whole generation of 2 to 4 year olds now whose parents get in touch, and I mean it's a wonderful club to belong to. This acting lark. It's a wonderful club. Good.
questions, Alan?
Derek.
Yeah.
Sir Derek, sorry.
Doesn't Fred will do.
Fred. I watched your episode last night, and something struck me when you changed from Professor Yana into the Master.
Yes.
Your eyes seem to be like as black as pitch. Did you wear contact lenses, or was it just then you brilliant acting?
I didn't wear contact lenses.
Right answer. Right answer. Ian, you have a question.
I was going to ask you, Sir Derek, you talked about Claudius earlier. For many of us, one of your defining roles was Claudius, which was, as you know, that fantastic serial. It was very theatrical.
Yeah.
And when television started, there was a lot of television drama was like theatre film.
Yes.
There's less of it now. Doctor Who, when it started, was very much film
But,
theatre.
yes.
Do you like television as film theatre, or do you like things like Mr. Pie that you did, which was very much a film shown in television?
Yes, well, I loved Claudius, because that very fact, we were a theatre company as such, and we were allowed to be theatrical. And it was filmed, you see. We'd rehearse for 10 days, and then we'd have 2 days in the studio, filming from 7 in the evening until 10 at night, on 2 occasions. So 6 hours to film the whole thing. And then on the next day was a day off, but we were learning the next episode. The whole thing took 6 months. And when you went into the studio, having spent 10 days rehearsing, you would play a whole scene. There would be multiple camera, 3 cameras, sometimes 4 cameras on you. You play the whole scene in its entirety. You wouldn't break off to do close-ups and setups and everything. Each camera had its own function and its own journey to make and its own shots to get. And so you could do it in a theatrical sense. You could play whole scenes, and then the cue would come and you'd go to the next set to do the next whole scene. I think it's something that probably couldn't be done now. Purely financially couldn't be done. Because it was really done on a wing and a prayer. It was all in the White City, no locations. It was all indoors, and one of the tricks they used was that when you went, and if you ever watch it again, you may see that when you went from room to room, on occasion, you were actually in the same room. The potted plants had moved. The configuration of the decoration of the room had moved, but the room itself was the same room. And when we were in the Colosseum, we were all up on a 10-foot rostrum. The cameras were on the floor, and we were looking down, supposedly, at the gladiators killing each other. There were white crosses on the floor where we all had to look, and we were shot upwards so that it looked as if we were up in the big stadium. But it was all on a wing and a prayer. But it looked great. I mean, it really was convincing, and we were all encouraged to be like a theatrical company. And I remember as each emperor got bumped off, the incoming emperor had to provide lunch for everybody and that sort of thing, you know. So it was wonderful to do. But none of us reckoned on the success that it proved to be, because it was posh BBC Two, it was Roman history, but within kind of weeks after it being shown, it was put on BBC One and repeated. But at first, the critics weren't sure about it. We were recording episode 7 when episode 1 was transmitted. And so we had 6 more to go. And the critics were very iffy to begin with. And we thought, oh, crap, we've got another 6 episodes. If they hate it, what are we going to do? And gradually, they came onto our side and they liked it. And it ended up being a big hit and a cult following and everything. But we really didn't know that that was going to happen. And then years later, I was at a party in Los Angeles, and a lady came up to me, and she said, oh, how wonderful to meet you. I owe you so much. And I said, you owe me so much? Why? She said, oh, well, in a way you made my fortune. And I said, really? What way was that? She said, well, my name is Esther Shapiro. I'm a producer. And I was a great fan of I, Claudius. And I decided to update it and make it into an American television. And I called it Dynasty. And if you think about it, it's the same story.
That's fantastic. I'm afraid we've got one more then, Gary, and we'll have to go, I'm afraid.
Derek, saw your Generations convention in Swansea, where you talked about BBC as a posh actor. I wondered, were there any roles that you were initially turned down for because of that perception?
One in particular role I was turned down for by being considered a BBC One or BBC Two actor, not a commercial actor. And it was a series that Carlton Television did called Cadfile. And when my name was mentioned, they said, no. He's posh. He's BBC. He's not commercial television. He doesn't do adverts. My agent, God bless him, got very angry on my behalf and said, what are you talking about? The man is an actor. He's a jobbing actor. He goes where the work is. He happens to have done Shakespeare. He happens to have done classical roles. He happens to have worked with other posh people. That's neither here nor there. He's an actor. He acts. He goes where and does what he is asked, or that appeals. So it in a sense it has. That's the only case, particularly where I've nearly lost something because of that persona that they put on me. But on the whole, I've been very lucky. I started this afternoon by saying about luck. Let me finish about luck. It's gone on and on for me. I mean, I am part of a profession that is permanently 80% unemployed. If I speak to you this afternoon about my life in art, I speak to you from a very, very privileged position, in that you are interested enough to hear about my life in art, and I have had a life that has been full of work, experience, of growth. That has been given to me, and I am very grateful for it. And it is not always given to all actors. And so I speak to you really from a position of true humility and privilege. I'm not knocking it. It's been wonderful. I love it. But many other people deserve it and don't get it. I got it, for which I'm deeply grateful.
I think we all do.
Thank you. Thank you.